Okay, so in this particular lectures, we are going to take up the joints. We'll start with a very general study of the joint, not in fact detailed study of the joints. Take up general study in a very basic sense, which we need to know, and then we will proceed on to take up the classification of joints, and then further specific joints, right? General study of the joint, specific study of the joints later on, and within the general study, the scope of the joint study is that we know that how the joints are formed, what is the need of the joints, and how ultimately they are classified, means what are different kind of joints. So we'll try to take up with an advanced format this particular study. So first of all, the first thing is, what is need, of course, of the joints? Why we need the joint? Our body can survive without the joint, or in essentiality we need the joints. The basic function of the joint is, as we can see, is to provide the movement. And we know that we are made up of endoskeleton. Endoskeleton means here the bony framework which we have. If we see embryologically, the skeleton is of two kinds, an endoskeleton and the exoskeleton. Exoskeleton is the one which is formed from which is of the dermal origin, means just under the skin, certain hardening take place and skeleton is formed. Like in arthropod, we have thick surface, there are plates. The plates made up of chitin is a special kind of chemical substance which provide protection to the internal structures. In human beings, the exoskeleton is not there. We are primarily made up of endoskeleton, means the skeleton, this material which provide the infrastructure, it has evolved inside. It is from the inside, and that is the need of the joint, that it provide a infrastructure. And another thing is that it provides movement. Just think of a body without any movement, means body as a composite structure, as a singular structure, where are no separate movement as such. There are no separate movement as such. So these separate movements are possible only when the structures comprising the endoskeleton, they can move in relation to each other. There is a relative movement between those structural component, what we call as the bone. Our endoskeleton is made up of a special kind of connective tissue which we call as a bone. So the need is for our daily functions, the mammalian as well as other animals, they have adapted to certain kind of tissue which provide them the movement. And the endoskeleton and the movement is not just about the joints. That is, there is a joint and there is a movement at the joint. Joint, in fact, is a very complex structure. It not only involves bones. Bones are the major component, of course. The other structures are lot of different kind of fibers and cartilages. Just think of the ligaments which are joining the bone, the fibrous capsule, particularly in the synovial joint, or a cartilage which is present in between the two ends of the bones, like in the costochondral or the interchondral region of the ribs. So it's not just the bony tissue. There are cartilages which are involved, fibers are involved, and complex network of blood vessels and nerves to provide nourishment and to take the information from the joint. It is there. A lot of other fibers like muscles, which are essential part. Though the joint, they provide the movement, but the factor which provide the movement is a muscle. When the muscle contract around the joint, only then the movement is possible. So muscles are a essential part of a joint. Without that, the function is not possible. And muscles, they are attached to the bones with the help of aponeurosis. So another kind of joint there is between the muscle and the bone. So we find there are a lot of joints around the conventional joint. bone to bone joint, bone to cartilage joint, bone to aponeurosis joint, bone to muscle joint, so many things which are. So it's a complex structure. So need of the joint primarily is to provide variety of the movements. So we can further understand it with the help of what we call functions of the joint. What are different functions? First, we just discussed in the need part that it provides movement. It provides movement. Another very important function of the joint is that it provides differential growth. When we later on will discuss the synchondroses and particularly the ossification process, we know that the bone first form from what we call as the cartilaginous model or the fibrous model, mesenchymal and the endochondral, two way of forming the bones are there. First, it is very small, optimal to the size of an fetus. Then as the size of the fetus it grows, it becomes the infant and adult, the size of the bones increase. How that increase of the size is permitted, at the same time maintaining the position of the joint at particular point. It suggests us that in the growth of the bone and the position of the joint, there is some kind of synchronicity, that there is a feedback mechanism that here is the presence of the joint and the bone is growing, and bone is growing in a particular direction while the joint is maintained at that particular position. So differential growth, the permission of the differential growth is there, that growth takes place at the joints. Particularly say, let's go bit of in the posterity, that ossification of the bones. I will not go in the detail, but just need to know a bit of it. Say there is a mesenchymal origin and there is a cartilaginous origin. We call that the mesenchymal ossification on one side, and on other side the endochondral ossification. What does it suggest? That when the bones are actually are to be formed in the fetal stage, first of all, either there is a mesenchymal model, that the mesodermal cell, they differentiate and form the mesenchyme,